Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We have an exciting agenda planned for you. We've assembled a panel of customers who are going to share their experiences about building scalable, user-friendly, modern analytics solutions, and then also explore some of the lessons they've learned, as well as hear about their valuable outcomes to their organization. We're very excited to have them here today and have all of you joining us, so thank you for making time. First off, let me introduce myself. I'm Paula Fredrickson. I am the Customer Success Director here at Preferred Strategies. And a little bit of information about today, a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to keep the presentation to around 45 minutes. That'll give us some time at the end for questions and answers. So please, if you have any questions, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A button. You can click on that, put in your question. I'll be monitoring them as we go through the session today, and then we'll bring those up at the end and we'll answer as many questions as we have time for. If for some reason we don't get to your question, we will follow up with you and make sure we get that answered. And just know that, after the webinar, if you have other questions that you think of that you would like some answers to, please reach out. We'll be happy to connect with you and do our best to answer those or answer new questions or whatever might come up. All right. Also, we are recording the webinar, so you'll have that to go back to as well if there's something you want to re-listen to or share with one of your coworkers. All right. So let's go ahead and get to our panel. But first, I want to introduce our moderators today. We've got Adam Krieger and Todd Wilson. Adam?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paula. Welcome, everyone. These really are my favorite sessions because every time I'm on one of these, I always learn several things that I didn't know going into it. So looking forward to all the feedback from all of our volunteer experts today that you're going to meet in just a moment. Again, my name is Adam, and I'll be one of the moderators along with Todd. And I just want to kind of provide a little bit of background. You can see a picture of our company here. We've been around since 2002, 35 team members today. But why are we here? And really, what do we need to be thinking about as we move forward as enterprise organizations and thinking about how our analytics and data strategy can help align with how we transform businesses and how you transform your business. This is just kind of laying some of the framework. And so this can come in a variety of different formats and flavors. And we have customers that cover, some different ways how they're approaching these different layers. I'll speak to it at a kind of a high level. And then, it's not really intent for today is to dive in super deep here, but this kind of lays some of the foundation for, as you hear from, the experts today, this is kind of some flavor of this. On the left-hand side, from a modern analytics platform perspective, we see connect and store. So in most cases here, we're taking data or you're taking data from a variety of different sources and landing them in some place. That could be a optimized data store in a SQL database. It could be a lakehouse in the cloud. It could be, a cloud-based database, maybe in Azure, variety of different things, but you're basically feeding data into that landing area. And that's where then the first layer of translation may occur, some, massaging of some data to make it be usable by the business. And that's where then that's fed into some type of data model. In this case, it would be a Power BI data model, or it could be an analysis services, SQL Server analysis services data set that then relates everything together, has measures, has things that make it a little easier for business users to build reports and get insights from information without having to think about how am I going to grab all this data and make it come together. It's already kind of done in a way. And it's also where you get the governance. So that would be where if you define what gross profit means to the organization, that's where the model would have that. So if somebody is then on the right, you can see analyze and visualize. If I'm in Power BI, viewing a dashboard with gross profit, it's going to mean the same thing as somebody looking at that same measure in a pivot table in a spreadsheet or in a paginated report, from a, kind of a SSRS slash, moving in the paginated Power BI direction there. So this is kind of the architecture. Again, we're going to, store data, model it, and then, you put it to work for the business with visualizing it. So that's just kind of a high level. Again, QuickLaunch, we provide pipelines and models here for all these layers. So happy to chat with anybody who's interested in what you hear today from the team and customers that are sharing their experience. But also moderating with me here, we've got Todd Wilson. So, Todd.
Yeah, thanks very much, Adam. And also thank you, Paula. As a side note, a very important one, it is Paula's birthday today. So a very happy birthday, Paula. But my name is Todd Wilson. I have had the unique pleasure of being connected to Preferred in a number of different ways. First, as a customer, in my role as CIO at Cliff Bar and Company, I got to know the team, the product, unwavering commitment to their customer. I liked it so much that I joined the company. So got to serve on the board, stepped into the role of CEO, and then also as a strategic advisor. So seeing all facets, the challenges and the exciting solutions. And I'm really excited about the panel that we have today. We are very fortunate to have a panel of experts that includes Bill Sandblom, Michael Mahaichuk, and also Steve Smith. We'd love to kick off that with some introductions. And to start, Bill, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and also IGI?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thanks for having me. I always look forward to these sessions to share some of the things that we've done and learn from others at the same time. I've been at the International Group for almost 20 years. Worked in mining and higher education before that. We are a wax producer, and we're a vertical where we take involved with taking crude out of the ground and then through a small refinery out in Salt Lake City. The main product gets railed across the country to a plant we have south of Buffalo, and from there we make paraffin wax. We make a lot of wax. I say we move over 1 billion pounds of wax a year, so it's not small quantities. And in terms of one of our markets, candles is still a big market, 20% or more. After that, packaging is huge. So your wax paper or coatings on cardboard to make them waterproof, those types of things. And then after that, there's like 100 other uses. There's a pound of wax in every tire, wax in lip gloss, fertilizers, all those kind of things. In terms of a little more about the company, it's a privately owned company. It's third generation, started in the 40s. They've been producing wax for 75 years, headquartered in Toronto, and 7 or 8 plants. I guess we have 8, 9 plants now actually in the States, in different areas. And company keeps growing, and we're really happy to be data driven. I guess we're supposed to tell a fun fact. One of the things I do when I'm not doing technology is try to sometimes get as far away as I can. I've got a cottage about 4 hours north of Toronto, and I'm always building and doing fun stuff. This summer, I built a garage and did more building than I wanted to do. I don't know if it's like this where other people are. My contractors didn't show up to pour the concrete floor. So first called some buddies that were going to help me, and they said, let's do it. And next thing you know, I was in rubber boots, spreading concrete and spreading it out. It actually turned out well. So I like to do things like that as well.
That's great, Bill. Well, thanks so much. And we sure appreciate you participating as one of our panelists today. We also have Steve Schmidt from Washington Corporations. Steve?
Hi, Steve Schmidt from Washington Companies. And if you've never heard about us, I'll run through in the short time I have, because what we are is a portfolio of privately held companies, starting with C-SPAN Containers. So we're the world's largest privately owned management of container vessels. We have over 154 container vessels that we actually provide the capital, build, and then send them on long-term leases to the big shipping companies. We own 2 railroads, one in British Columbia, one here in the States. We're the world's largest Komatsu dealership, doing business primarily in the Pacific Northwest. We have a tug and barge company. We have a shipbuilding company. We have 2 shipyards in Canada. We're building currently. We're building all the non-combat vessels for the Canadian government. And then probably the most familiar company that we have is if you ever travel, look out the side of the airplane. You see the little wingtips on the end of the jets. We own the worldwide patent to that, and we make them exclusively for Boeing business jets as well as Hawker and Falcon private business jets. We also own a mine, a copper and moly mine, and the one thing that ties all these companies together is, again, they're privately held and owned outright or owned majority stake by one person. His name is Mr. Washington, hence the name Washington Corporations. And I work for him, and so we support all of his companies. Interesting fact, while I'm based in Montana, because that's where Mr. Washington is from, great place to be. But we just celebrated our 60th anniversary in business. I've been here for 17 of those. And regarding preferred strategies, we rolled out our first company, our marine and shipyards, 2 years ago, and we're very impressed with it. So now we've rolled it out to 3 of our companies, and we'll roll it out to the rest of our portfolio of companies by the end of this year.
That's great. Yeah, thanks so much, Steve. And again, thank you for participating in today's fireside chat. Our last panelist, Mike Mahicek from Alta Genetics. Mike?
Thanks, Todd. Yep, my name is Mike Mahicek. I've been working with Alta Genetics for just about almost 4 years now. Alta Genetics is one of several companies that's part of a group called URUS. And URUS is actually Latin for cow. It is a global leader in products and services for the dairy and beef industry. So we do artificial insemination, genetics, reproduction, and farm management through all the companies. We service dairy and beef producers on 6 continents. We've got offices on 6 continents as well, which means that pretty much every hour of every day, someone is either transacting and creating data or using preferred strategies to view the data as well. JD Edwards and our by extension preferred strategies is used for inventory purchasing, sales, distribution, and finance. So the only thing outside of the view of preferred strategies is HR and manufacturing. Fun fact, so prior to my glamorous role in IT, I was an airline pilot. I used to fly out of Washington, Dulles, and Chicago O'Hare airports. That was a really different career, but not so different in some ways. It instilled probably an unhealthy appreciation and love for process and measuring the health of processes and kind of using that to operate. So that's me.
That's great. Well, Mike, it's sure great to have you. Thanks so much for being one of our panelists today. I do wonder if some of those wingtips that Steve was producing that you were the beneficiary of. I know that creates a lot of stability in the air. That's great. All right. Well, again, thank you all for being a part of our panel today. So let's jump into some of the questions. Adam?
Awesome. Thank you, Todd. Yeah, thanks, Bill, Steve, and Mike. We're excited to hear about your experience with enterprise analytics and to get started, but to hear from each of you. So the first question for you is, after modernizing your enterprise analytics strategy with Power BI and QuickLaunch, what has been the biggest impact at your company? And the follow-on to that, if applicable, were there any specific outcomes you can quantify? So let's go ahead, Mike. Can we start with you?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the biggest things that putting enterprise analytics in did was give visibility to data. In a lot of ways, all of a sudden you couldn't hide behind bad data. So it surfaced the quality of the data, that surfaced the quality of the processes that were creating the data. And one of the biggest impacts we had was really around data integrity and data quality. So we saw huge growth in kind of the maturity of the data that we were putting out, but also a lot fewer issues and errors in the transactions that was using that data too. So drove a lot of efficiency in those first couple of years.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Bill, anything to share?
Yeah, sure thing. I can talk about this for an hour, but I know I won't. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, we were a customer early in the game, end of 2018. I mean, still well along the way, but it's been 5 years that we've been doing this. it's just been, before I get to the actual things that save us money, it's really been interesting watching the company become data-driven. And things like, and I don't remember what I was sitting in the CEO's office talking to John back, I don't know, a year ago or so, and I don't know what we're talking about, but it was, well, should we do this now or should we do that? And basically his answer to the question is, well, of course we got to do that. We have to be data-driven. And that's not the way we were 5 years ago, not even close to that. And it's just really interesting. And it's just a real cultural change. When we have meetings, whether it's a sales meeting or a management meeting, everybody's PowerPoints have PowerPoint slides in them now where they're driven off this data. So you know that they're using it, that we're not just building screens and they're walking away from it. Now, in terms of value, yeah, lots and lots of value. It's been a game changer for the company. So some of the things when I talk about when you're looking at the changes you make with the business data, sometimes it's a bit hard to measure. Some things are a little bit easier. So we did, the first module that we worked on was accounts receivable. And what we did there was basically provide all the timing, how many accounts are 30 days, 60 days, those types of things. And that's all good, a lot better than the reports that they'd have to run. But on top of that, what we did is we provided the manager with an ability to look up and get a customer statement and pull all the data together for a customer. And that matters to us when we'd have a truck of wax to go out and it would be on credit hold. And in the past, the AR manager would phone up the company and say, you got to send us some money before we're going to release the truck. And often that would be, they would say, no, we're good. We always pay our bills. And obviously they're not, or we wouldn't be calling you. And that would take the AR manager half a day to 3/4 of a day to gather up all the information. Now it's 15, 20 seconds, puts in the company's name, pulls it all up. We use Snagit to captures the screen, sends it off to the customer. The customer says, oh, I guess you're right. Sends the money, and then hopefully the truck's on its way in an hour versus sitting there overnight and that kind of stuff. So in some ways, you can put some numbers on that. If that happens 3 times a week, you can say, well, you saved half a day times 3 times blah, 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 times salaries and come up with something. And you can turn it around and even say, it probably makes the customer happier. Not that they're happy to pay their bills, but at the end of the day, they don't want their plant to shut down. So those kind of things, there's value on both sides. There's value that you can measure. But some of the other things are a little bit harder to measure. There's things where we provide our pricing people with a screen, a scatter chart that shows what we're selling, let's say, a various wax for based on volumes and those types of things. And that's hard to measure what the value of that is. You'd like to think that we get another penny or 2 or 3 per pound of wax, but how do you know? How do you know what they would have done if they didn't have the data? So you can't come back and say, well, we got 3 cents more, it's times whatever, millions and millions of pounds. Look what we did for you. That's not one I've taken to the scale and say, wow, look how good we are, because you don't really know. But you try to presume it is. Now, another area, because of when we implemented this, is we brought in all our other data. And that included production data, CRM data, operational excellence data. And we hit a golden egg there. And it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't gone along with this. And basically it allowed us in our production plants to reduce our waste in one of our units from, in the first year, 8.5% to 5.2%. And that was over $10 million in extra profit because we actually produced a whole bunch more wax. And we've now got that down to 3%, under 3% this year. So it just keeps getting better and better. I don't think there's much room to get better. I think we've kind of diminishing returns now, but huge dollars. So there's things where we've got huge measurables, and then there's a whole bunch of things where we just know we're doing a better job at making better decisions.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Steve.
Yeah, so I can just echo what Bill and Michael said, particularly when Michael said about the visibility and surfacing the data, because the example that I have is just at one of our companies, our most profitable one, the copper mine. The very first time we introduced analytics and Power BI to the executive team. So it was the president and 5 vice presidents of the mine. And by able to show them the data, we were able to knock down a lot of traditions. And I'll give you an example. So here am I standing in front of the people that know their business more than anybody and ask a simple question: what is your most productive day in the mine? Because it's a 24/7 operation. And that's a big deal. What is your productive days? Because they all have different things attached to them. And they all just were like, yeah, Sunday's the best day. They high five Sunday. And then I go, well, let's see. click, up on the screen, and I go, actually, Sunday is your second least most productive day, and here's why. And the reason I was able to do that is because, again, you surface the data. And let me tell you, when you can tell a group of executives something that they're not aware of, something that they just know through tradition is wrong, they're all on their phones and in the meeting and stuff like that, the phones go down and it's eyes front. And just having the ability to put analytics in front of a group of executives like that and get their attention, well, that embarked on a first phase that we engaged in a year and a half ago. And this first phase that we did netted $6 million additional revenue a month by just visualizing the efficiency in just one of the stages of the copper mill production. And let me just say, it's $6 million additional. It wasn't $6 million of goodwill. It wasn't $6 million of, hey, everybody feel good. It's $6 million a month in the bank, using the same crew, the same production, the same equipment, and it's attributed to visibility. And by the way, so the dashboards that we built, not only the executives go to it they start their day with it, but we have digital displays throughout the mine. And you can see it from space. It's a very large mine. So these dashboards are on screens throughout the mine, and everybody walks by them and looks at them.
Love it. Love it. I'm actually getting chills over here. I'm gonna have to put my jacket on. You guys are loving the stories. Todd.
And just 1 second, and I think, Steve, just to add to what you said, reports you could have a report that could say Sundays were bad. The difference is you can tell them why, and that's the difference. Is you can say, here's your best day or here's your worst day and here's why, and that's what's huge.
Yeah, I love those examples. It's great to hear stories like that. We had a similar example at Clipbar. Once we started using the data to make good decisions, we actually found ways to improve productivity and improve our OEE by reducing the speed of our conveyor belts. It was counterintuitive, much like your description of Sunday being such a great day. It was counterintuitive. But we had all the reasons why. We knew exactly why that was causing more disruption, more downtime, and it was all because we decided to start becoming data-driven. So great stories with some of the outcomes there. We do know through many studies that most BI projects, they fail. Some studies say 72% in one form or another fail. So when you think back on your success, what was your reason or motivation to begin to start implementing an enterprise analytics solution? Steve, you want to take a first pass at that?
Yeah, because that's what everybody was asking for, right? And the BI tool that we had in place for the last 17 years, and I was hired on to actually roll out, was SAP Business Objects based. So tabular reports. So they've always had reports. They've always had good data and access to the data. But what we learned is the ability to create very good telling reports to roll up to decision makers. Really, they degraded back down to just data dumps in the spreadsheets. And so people were just dumping, 28 million records into a spreadsheet and then just start doing stuff with it and then producing that and rolling that up. And so we just, there's got to be a way, how can you visualize data when there's 28 million records sitting in a spreadsheet? And that's what they're bumping up to the executives and decision makers. And so that's why we decided to go with the data visualization and take those 20 million records and go, here's what's happening with your production right now, and here's where you're headed if you keep the trajectory you're going on.
Yeah, it is really amazing how many companies still rely on Excel. And of course, if you've got one tool, you make it fit everything. Yeah, that's great, Steve. Mike, how about you with Altagenetics?
We started really small. So our, the reason we dipped our toes into this was as part of an acquisition. of another company, and we just couldn't meet the reporting needs that they had coming in. So the very first step that we did was literally just those tabular reports that Steve was talking about, and getting the data together and being able to do financial statements and other tabular reports. And then over time, we said, hey, listen, there's a lot more you can do with this data. And, how do you take, again, just like you were saying, Steve, how do you take all that tabular data and start to visualize it? And so we look at inventory and said, you know what, we can tell a story here. So there's a story to be told about inventory availability, how inventory is used, and how you could more effectively use the inventory that's out there. And then, hey, we can tell a story about sales as well. So all these stories just started to, really get people thinking and get people excited. And after about a year or two, all of a sudden you kind of hit that critical mass, and the use of reporting to tell a story just went viral. And so now we're at a point where it's like, no, we need this everywhere. We need to become that data-driven company that Bill was talking about. But yeah, it all started very small and just kind of grew organically from there.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Great story. And Bill, you've already mentioned that you already had alignment around the need to become data driven. And anything else you'd add in terms of the reasons and motivations behind enterprise analytics?
Yeah, I guess how we got there. I mean, it was 2018, and I already had done some work in our management meeting in the fall. So we need better access to data, and what they really meant, better access to JD Edwards data, even though I brought in a lot of other stuff. And it was interesting. At that time, I'd had IBM, Oracle, and maybe Dell or whatever come in to kind of say, well, what should I do, right? And they all said they had the fastest servers and all that stuff and the fastest database, which really didn't matter to me because we're a manufacturing company. We don't have that much data. But at the end of the day, I had one of them quote on, okay, what's it going to take to build a cube out of the sales module? And they came back and said, well, that'll take about 3 months. We need 2 of your people. And I think it was $50,000 to $70,000 to do it. So I kind of did the math, and you multiply, we got 10 modules, blah, blah, blah. We're $1 million and something, 2 of my people, and 3 years later, if we're lucky and it goes right, we'll have a product, right? And thank goodness that I found Preferred Strategies, because it was there. I mean, as they promised, 8 weeks later, we had our data. Now, obviously, now you've got to do some work with your users and find out what they want and modify the screens. But that was just, it was a huge turning point, because instead of being 5 years into this project, I'd probably be 2 years into this project because we'd still be building cubes, or maybe we'd still be on Preferred Strategies because we would have failed and started over. So it was just a really good finding Preferred Strategies. Thank goodness.
Yeah, no, that's a great story of the pros and cons of build versus buy. And coming from somebody who's not afraid to get steeped in concrete, that's a great story. All right, Adam.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. We're glad you found us as well. So good partnership. So staying with you, Bill, what were the biggest challenges and lessons learned that you faced during the implementation of enterprise analytics?
So yeah, I got my notes here and I wrote down in bold, there were no major challenges. It went really well. So you guys did what you said, and I've got a great team, and we did what we could do, and we picked areas. I guess the way we did it was, like I said, we picked AR and we did that first. It was a small area, it's a small department, had success. I was going back on one of my older presentations. I think we initially bought all the modules but 20 licenses in February. And my notes say in July, we bought unlimited licenses. So there couldn't have been too many challenges there for us to go from, let's build the first module, let's build the second, and everybody wanted it. So we didn't have major challenges. I mean, it was just a new way of doing things, and it just rolled out. And like I say, it talks to the quality of your team and our people and our users, and it just went. I mean, and it hasn't stopped. So yeah, no majors on our side. It was easy to justify as it went along, and no, it was good. Thank
you, Bill. Steve.
Yeah, again, I echo what Bill said earlier about trying to do it yourself. So our struggle it was getting up to the point of Preferred Strategies, because we were basically building Power BI versions of our on-prem data marts that were put in place for the SAP Business Objects side of things, and we had to create a new data set for every single report that was out there. And we actually tried implementing our own cloud versions of JD Edwards data, and we tried twice using 2 different premier partners that were very good that Microsoft recommended. And we tried to do something very simple. Just give us the F0006, the F1901, the F1902. Let's just try and build a really simple GL thing. We tried twice. And we know it. We know how to build E1-based data marts, and we know E1 very well. And we tried 2 times, never could get it running. And that's when we signed up with Preferred Strategies. And I always like to say that here's the money quote. For what we paid in these 2 failed trials, we paid more than that than we paid for the entire suite, every single module for Preferred Strategies, and we just implemented it. And like I said, you know, it was just a matter of weeks, and we were up and running. That's why we're rolling out to the rest of the companies. And we're talking GL, AP, AR, purchasing, inventory, HR, payroll, work order. What else am I missing? Manufacturing, sales order. And I know there's like 1 or 2 other. And so it was all the modules, not just, hey, just give us the GL balances and the account master. So the challenge was trying to do it ourselves up until we rolled out Preferred Strategies.
Thank you, Stephen. And just one note to add to your share out there. One of the things that you have done, right, because we worked with you, is you've got a savvy team, as you've shared. You guys are doing this, you know. And so as you roll this out, you know, your involvement has been growing on getting that adoption throughout all those other companies that you guys bring on. That's what we love seeing that, right? Because that's really you know, become self-sufficient in that regard is wonderful. Mike, what are your thoughts?
You know, everybody's teed it up beautifully here. You know, we followed kind of the same path that Bill did, where we were a few modules, 20 users. And it didn't take more than a couple months to realize we need everything unlimited. So it's very easy to justify and to create the case for going big. But what we lacked was that savvy team. So when we started, it was just me wearing all the hats. Mm-hmm. And you know, we've slowly grown and understood these are the roles you need. Here's the skills that you need. Here's how you build kind of a sustainable team to scale out and build these reports. So the biggest challenge, you know, once it really caught on, was managing the expectations of everyone and all of the report requests that come in. But kind of going along with that, one of the opportunities, or one of the things we've really learned, is it's easy to provide data to someone. Hey, I need to know this. Okay, here's the data. It's easy to provide information, but we're now really challenging the business and ourselves to ask better questions. Ask better questions of the data. Don't just look for information, but like, what insights are you trying to get? Because providing insights is much, much more valuable than providing information, whether it's in a spreadsheet or a graph. At the end of the day, you still need someone with that years and years of experience to go through rows and rows and rows and say, oh, that's wrong. Where now you can point them to an insight that they're trying to get from it. And that's been a challenge, just to get people to shift the mindset. It's like, what do you mean? I need all that data in front of me, because I'll tell you what's wrong. I just need the data. It's like, well, let's think about it a little different.
Love this, you know, different way of thinking. Obviously, this is a modern tech is going to force us all to continuously stretch the limits on how we've done things in the past and how we do them in the future. Love it. Todd?
Yeah, so I want to shift gears just a bit and talk a little bit about AI and machine learning. That's been all the rage for quite some time now, and all that hype is actually more accessible, more economical than we've ever seen in the past. So it's not just a hype phase. It's starting to turn into some material benefits. We've been doing a fair amount of development around data science algorithms for our QuickLaunch product. We'll have more information on that in the fall, as well as exploring large language models and generative AI. So how do you envision that role of AI, machine learning, data science, generative AI, evolving with your enterprise analytics within your organization? And Bill, maybe we'll start with you because I know you've done a fair amount of work and that led to some tangible results with your waste example there. So maybe you can kick it off and talk a little bit about what you see as the vision going forward.
Yeah, I mean that's been on our process data. I think the same stuff that Steve, I guess, is seen, right, on how to run the plants better. And so we're going plant by plant now and putting it in and tower by tower, and the engineers are now excited about it. They all like, when are we getting this in our plant? When are we going to be able to have these screens? When are we going to run machine learning on how to get better diesel yields, how to get less of this and that type of stuff? So we've got that figured out. So the harder part that I haven't got figured out, and I think we're all trying to work a little bit, is how do we do that with our business data, right? That whether it's costing data, pricing data, how do we use AI to suggest that we should charge 70 cents a pound for this customer versus 65 so that we get it? And how do we use AI to, let's say, I mean, every truck or rail car wax, we do a quality test and we sell our wax within certain specs. How do we get AI to tell us maybe our spec should be wider, maybe it should be narrower, because we don't have to be that good, or we should be better and we can charge more? How do we get there? And I haven't quite figured that out. I think is it playing with Copilot and some of that, but Copilot's more the generative description stuff versus the real hard machine learning. So I think there's a huge opportunity. I just think that's going to come out over the next 1 to 5 years. That's the models, the machine learning stuff, all that stuff, the generatives. Maybe it's a combination of those together, so that you're forming more structure on the data, but letting it go and look at other things that are happening out in the general world, right? Pulling external stuff while you're still trying to figure out your pricing and things like that. And I mean, there's definitely things there when you get a new customer now to gather and get a SWOT analysis and all that kind of stuff pulled together on a customer is really fast now. It's not hard. Like the salespeople don't have to spend a lot of time. And definitely we're doing things with the Gen AI where we're pulling in basically all the narratives out of CRM and putting it through, and there could be hundreds of items, and some of our sales analysts type of people are pulling that in, and it's telling us things about the customers, what to be concerned about, and that kind of stuff. So some of that's there, but I think we're just getting started. As we all know, the Gen AI's just started, and the rest of it. So I think you go little pieces, right? You can't just go after the whole thing. You got to pick little things and go after it, because it's big and there's lots there. And our executive team is like a little bit, as much as we've had huge success with the machine learning, they're like, whoa, Bill, like, I think we're doing really good. Like, it's like, do we need to do more? And it's like, well, I said, we should at least look at this a little bit and kind of scrape the surface, right? And so, because I think, yeah, it concerns your executive teams. They're just wondering, like, how far are we going? Like, are we getting to where somebody in the morning comes and pushes the green button, go, and the red button at the end of the day to stop things? I mean, it's we're a long way from that, but yeah, it makes them nervous at the same time of where we're going and how we get there. So and because my last steering team meeting was like the one guy kept saying, I'm not against tech, but maybe we're going a little fast. Like, and again, he say, I'm not against this, but like, maybe we're going too fast, right? So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting number of years. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, that's great examples, and certainly it's changing by the day. So which makes it exciting, exhilarating, and sometimes a bit terrifying. Especially if you're already thinking you're going too fast, watch out. That speed just continues to increase. Steve, what's that vision look like for you at Washington Companies?
So we do have a team, dedicated team looking into it. We've actually signed up as an early adoption company for the Microsoft private cloud. But for us, there needs to be a compelling reason for the operating companies to use it. We can't just go, isn't this neat? Isn't this cool? Going back to my early example of, me in front of a bunch of executives asking them, getting their attention by saying, what their most productive day was, and found out that it wasn't. We need to be able to do that with AI. We need to be able to get in front and go, here's something that you didn't know about your business, and here's how we found out about it. And that draws them in. That makes it compelling. But right now, it's just really what we've come up with is just, as of last week, we all had to take a policy course on how how not to use AI while we're trying to figure it out. And that's why it's compelling to see why what preferred strategies comes out with it. Help us to find out how we can use the data that we have in a way that's compelling and useful. Again, at the end, the companies pay for it, right? So we don't just go, hey, everybody, we bought AI, you're free to use it. They're going to ask, how much is this costing us? And when we say how much it's costing them, and the proposed costs right now are a little steep, right? There needs to be a compelling reason why. And of course, AI is what was mentioned. Bill said it's still too new. It's still, people are still trying to figure out what is this thing and what is it good for.
Yeah, I love that approach. We're trying to do the same in our development, and that is, where's the value? What value are we deriving from this? Not, hey, look at this is cool. But rather, what's the value that we're seeing? If we stick to that, it's just a matter of time that we'll start uncovering that, those big values, much like what Bill's described with machine learning. Mike, how about you?
We're we're at the point where we're starting to ask questions, and we're starting to look at, again, what could it be? What could it look like? Our industry is very sensitive to geopolitical events, commodity prices, environment, and even social trends that are out there as well. So understanding, how all of that plays into one of our customers' ability to produce milk, to produce beef cattle, and what they're looking for. That's one of the areas that we look at. So you look at customer retention and customer churn, and we have data now that can somewhat predict when a customer might be coming close to leaving based on their spending patterns and kind of the data behind it all. But what about those external factors? Let's worry not about the customer leaving us for a competitor, but a customer, going out of business. And what does that look like? And at what point do you kind of have the ability to play a role in either preventing that from happening or providing the right kind of services? The other part that's really interesting is there's a big part of our business that produces the genetics. So we're selectively breeding cattle with certain traits, and there's probably 20 to 30 different traits that a cow can have, anything from udder size to milk fat to pregnancy success. All of these things have been tracked since the 1800s. So there's a big, long history of tracking dairy cattle and the genetics. And it takes about 5 years. It takes about a generation in cow terms to get to a genetic level. So we need the ability to predict 5 years ahead of time what the market's going to need in the future. And looking at AI to do some of that stuff is exciting. It's kind of daunting, and you wonder how that's possible, but it's one of the areas we're definitely curious about.
Yeah, that's great. And you use the word predict. It does make me think of the long-standing framework that Gartner published years ago on data maturity, starting with descriptive. And most everything in analytics has been descriptive for many years, but then you move to diagnostic, and there's a fair amount of that's happened and continue to evolve. Then you get to the next two tiers, predictive and prescriptive, and that's where it gets really challenging. And that's been elusive for so long that it really does feel like we're reaching a point where that's going to be possible in ways that we've never seen before. So exciting place to be, daunting place to be for sure. I certainly agree, but it couldn't be more exciting. That's great. Okay, Adam.
Yeah, no, thank you. Love the stories. This kind of maybe piggybacks on that last one a little bit, but maybe some other ideas as well. What's next for your organization in terms of analytics, and how do you plan to scale or evolve your current capabilities? So, Steve, you want to start with you?
Yeah, so like I said at the opening, we're rolling out preferred strategies to the remainder of the company, and we're trying to do that by the end of the year because we did the big ones, and now we're just doing the small ones to wrap up the year. After that, what'll happen is we'll start kind of like an internal enterprise-wide user group where that's where the best ideas come from. Is when one company says, "Hey, let's show what we're doing with the HR data over here," and then the other company's like, "Oh, we want to do that too." And so we'll start. That'll get the juices flowing, and that'll get breed adoption. But the other thing that we're seeing is now that they can see the value of data, at the executive level now because it's so visual. Our companies are on a quest for just how do we get more data. So we're doing a lot more telemetry data, vehicle telemetry data. That includes our heavy equipment in the mine to the service trucks for our heavy equipment dealerships, running profitability. And where preferred strategy helps us is our E1, our financial information pretty much, and is in the cloud. That's always been a struggle. So now it's in the cloud because all these other cloud apps is in the cloud. It was hard doing on-prem to cloud kind of mashup of data. But now when a company, when they want a proof of concept with another cloud vertical that has things, telemetry data hooked up to their service vehicles, for instance, and they want to now join it to the asset master, the fixed asset master and JD Edwards, and then tie it to GL, go, what is the profitability per service truck? We can do that now, and we've done it. We've proved it out. So it's just getting, to answer your question, they want more data now.
Perfect.
Right.
And I like what you shared about as you get more of these companies that are running different types of operations, but still coming together and sharing and collaborating on these things. I know the last year with Gartner, with their franchise kind of center of excellence model, right? How do you build these core competencies and ideas and consistency within the organization, then that gets shared amongst all the different teams and departments, in your case, separate companies. So great future story to talk about next time around. Mike, how about you?
We're looking next at really growing the data beyond what we're bringing in from JD Edwards. So there's a wealth of other information out there from all the different operating companies and kind of the URUS umbrella that service all the different parts of the cow at the end of the day. So bringing all of that data together is kind of where we're at. And then beyond that, building the team that can actually manage and service the organization using that data. So we're probably maturity 2.5, 3, looking to make the step up to 4, hopefully.
Nice, love it. Bill, how about you?
Yeah, kind of continue what we're doing on the process side, bringing in the rest of our plants. I mean, we're lucky all our plants, well, no, we had to add it. We've got PLCs that spit out lots of data. As Steve, it's obviously harder when you have to do it on trucks and they're mobile. That's if I've been in the mining industry, that's tougher. But our plants are there. There's PLCs. The data rolls up into a historian, and then from there we're bringing it into the same database. So, but we're finishing that out off at a couple of other plants, and I think we're kind of 12 months away from finishing all that up. We've got a new CFO that's very data driven. The two that we've had while we did this, they were interested but not fully engaged the way this fella is. He's only been here 3 weeks, and he sent me a text while we're here, call me while this has been on, and he's pleasantly surprised when I showed him what we had with preferred strategies. He's like, wow. I said, yeah, we're ready to go. So let's bring your ideas on. And I think the other is that we're circling back to our users a little bit, because, and I think we all have to continue to do this, is that what does the user see when he sees a graph? What do they see when the data is done this way? Like it's that education level there is to, yeah, they ask for stuff. And I think as Steve and Mike said, then, okay, what is the next things you need? And as well, what do you see when you see that? When you see a graph like that, does that say do more of this or less of this? What are you seeing? And there's some room to educate people. Just because we're giving them a graph, and it's like how do we dig in, and how do you, because yeah, our people generally aren't super analytical. You have some stars in there, but a lot of them aren't. So we need to get to work with them and develop that educational process at the same thing, and that'll take time, but that's important, because just spilling up the graphs and running and on to the next module, doesn't get it all done. You're getting things done, but you're not getting the full potential. So we are looking at how do we spend time doing that this year as well over the next 12 months, trying to keep working with them. And I think it's an endless process. I mean, that's what it should be. I mean, that's never going to end.
Yeah, no, as we started talking about spreadsheets and just swimming in data to now visualizing and finding those outliers, but we just think, oh, we throw this dashboard or chart together and it answers the question. But I think that's great to go and is the business really understanding it, right? Or what questions does it lead to them for the next round of that? So yeah, it is a never-ending kind of loop, I guess. But no, I think that is great. Todd, I think you have a final question for the group.
Yeah, just real quick, because we do want to save some time for questions. I know we've got quite a few coming in. What's one tip that you can share to the audience here as they consider their analytics journey? And we probably have a range of where people are in their journey. I know for me and in our journey as a customer of QuickLaunch at ClipBar, we started a center of excellence, and that created this constant innovation. We were constantly pushing the limits of what could be done and also engaging all of our cross-functional team. Is there one tip that you might think that comes to mind that you want to share with our audience today?
I would say small chunks. I mean, that's where we took AR, had success, able to demonstrate the success. I mean, and that ended up rolling out, right? I mean, why it went from 20 users up to a bunch is that we had these screens, and very quickly, well, let's give it to the salespeople so they can see their customers that have challenges, right? So all of a sudden now you need another 20 licenses, and all of a sudden they said, well, can we get our sales data like that? Like, what can you do for us, right? And it just, but you go in small pieces, get it done, and move on. You can't tackle it all. I mean, like Michael, you were your own team. I mean, and our team's not huge. I mean, we've got 3 or 4 people that do it, including myself. I love when I have find some time to work on Power BI and put some stuff together. And but yeah, you just got to go in pieces and build your team as you go. And I think you'll find the people that you involve on that team are really happy to be on that team to be able, because it's fun work. That's what it comes down to, really rewarding. So you're not going to have trouble getting people. Would you like to quit writing SQL code and do Power BI? And once you give them a course or two and they realize what they can do, you've got newfound people that want to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Steve, how about you? Any tip that comes to mind?
Yeah, don't try and do it by yourself. You're not going to. You know, this whole buying a solution, it's not new to our organization, because that's what we did 17 years ago with the business object solution. We bought a pre-built JD Edwards Enterprise One set of data marts. But not only is it just a faster time to implementation, but what we've learned is, hey, what happens when an upgrade happens? Hey, we went from World to E1, we went from 8.1 to 8.0 to 8.1, 8.1 to 8.2, 8.2 to 9.0, on and on and on. Whenever we had an upgrade, we just said, hey, we need the latest upgrade ETL package, and it was there. We didn't have to develop it all over again. When something went wrong, let's say you just got an error message, hey, a certain table didn't load. You can call up, in our case, Preferred Strategies, and go, it's your product, fix it. And you go, okay, and then you fix it. If you bake something by yourself, first of all, good luck getting it going based on what we've learned. And again, talking to the other peers too, but also think about the business continuity, which is, okay, what happens when, there's an upgrade to E1, right? Or you upgrade, we moved from Oracle databases to all SQL. Well, we just said, can we have the SQL version of your product? And they went, here it is. And we upgraded in a week. We would have to rewrite that. So my tip is don't go it alone. Reach out to a partner that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Steve. Mike, that leaves you with the last word. What's one tip you can share with the audience before we jump into our Q&A?
I can only echo Bill here and the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So start small, grow from there. The biggest thing, the most impactful thing that happened for us was going from 1 person to 2. Having 2 people, having that sparring partner to be able to challenge you and to be able to say, Why did you do that? I would have done this. Because it's art and science, all of this. It's not just a science. There's a lot of art to it. And being able to bounce ideas off of a peer who's kind of open to that, and having that open kind of culture to be able to challenge each other is a game changer.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Thank you everyone for such great discussion. It's sure been an awesome time together. We did want to save a little bit of time here for questions. So with that, I will pass it back to Paula.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, we have a few questions that came in. I'm not sure we're going to get to all of them, but we'll answer a few of those. And just so you know, if you have other questions and you want to follow up with us, you can scan the QR code and send that off to us. We'd be happy to follow up with you and answer questions. So feel free to do that if that's helpful. Oh, you did that and I lost my question screen. Hang on just a second here. All right. I'm going to start with a question that came in from Craig. And the question is, any work being done to leverage the AI functionality of Databricks that the QL data is sitting on?
The QL, the
QuickLaunch.
Yes, absolutely. And we have a user conference coming up next month where we'll be unveiling the development we've been doing around our data science capability. We're leveraging over 30 algorithms that are in Databricks to apply data science models to the data that exist in your Databricks environment. So more to come on that. And then we're in the discovery phase now for the integration of generative AI. It will also be leveraging the large language model capability within Databricks. So we'll be using, and not starting from scratch, using that capability for supervised learning that will then inform in a more commonly understood way, which is a ChatGPT kind of format. So lots more to come, especially on the data science, and this fall we'll be sharing a lot more information there.
All right, perfect. Another question that came in from ISIS is, are Power BI reports pulling from JDE or a spreadsheet server, or are schemas built in a data warehouse? If it's in JDE database, how do you share the data with other departments that will also need that data, or meshing JD Edwards data with other system data? Who wants to take that one?
Yeah, I could take it. I mean, yeah, it's in a data warehouse, and Preferred Strategies has a lot of options. We're still on the SQL analytical server, but people are on Databricks. I think there's a few other choices along the way. So therefore, it becomes very easy. You roll out your Power BI reports, you share them, and obviously there's security who gets them, and there's no problem with all that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, we have some other questions are from one person. We'll follow up with them later. And I just want to take a minute here while we have some time and thank all of you for being here. Our panelists, I think we could go on and on for hours with all of you guys here, and I have a feeling more and more questions would come in. So thank you for making time for us in your day and being our panelists. For those of you who've joined us on the session, thank you for making time in your day and, being with us during this webinar. Again, any questions, please reach out. We'll be happy to follow up with you. And I hope you all have a great day. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Yeah.